What's up, everybody? This is All Things Beer 510, and today we're not doing a review. This is my first hip hop editorial. I told you guys last week I'm going to start doing hip hop videos, talking about my favorite artists, favorite albums, favorite verses, favorite songs, just bringing you into the world of me. Mixing beer with it. Beer reviews will still be coming. I reviewed a couple beers earlier today, so this does not stop. But, I want to talk about my favorite albums. Guys, this is favorite albums and favorite artists are probably the hardest for anybody to come up with a top 10 of anything. But I mean, there's so many hip hop albums I love, and just a preference, this is my favorite. But I want everybody to comment with their favorite hip hop albums. It doesn't have to be 10. It could be 10. It could be just ones that come to mind. I mean, for me, I grew up in the 90s. I was listening to Wu-Tang at 10 years old. Biggie at 10 years old. C-Bo from Sacramento at 10 years old. I had an older cousin who just had all the tapes, was into hip hop, and I would just borrow his tapes, sometimes take his tapes, and listen to everything that he had. He was a big East Coast head, and that's how I became a big East Coast head. I still love the West Coast too. I have a couple West Coast albums in my top 10. But yeah, you'll be seeing top 10s for literally everything. Every coast, everything. But this is favorite hip hop albums and why. I struggle with this. If I left something out, I don't gotta say sorry, but I might have left something out when I go back and check on this. But these are the top 10 albums that just had an impact on me, and that's what I do have a non-biased top 10. Maybe I'll do that video later. But these are just ones that had an impact on me certain times in my life. Ones that I still play till this day. So let's get, and I'm gonna do it in order, which is even harder. But let's get to number 10. I do have a little notebook so I can just do not forget anything or ramble on. I don't want these videos to be like 20, 30 minutes long. So yeah, so the first one I have at number 10 is Mobb Deep's The Infamous. Infamous, Mobb Deep coming from Queensbridge, NYC, one of the dopest duos ever, Havoc and Prodigy. Havoc on the beats, Prodigy on the rhymes, Havoc on also rhyming. Just a dope album, the Infamous, dope album. Just one of those albums in the 90s that I had to get my hands on. Of course, everybody knows Shook Ones, which is a hip hop classic, but the beats, Havoc had great production. Just that eerie, almost scary poltergeist type feeling beats, and then Prodigy's rhymes were just stab your face with he was talking about stabbing people in their faces and nose bones, and just it was really gutter, and it was really dope. They were really young, 17, 18 years old. And it's just, at that time when I was listening to the music, I was just really big into East Coast hip hop. And, they stuck out. They had songs like Survival of the Fittest. They had Q-Tip on Drink Away the Pain. They had Ghost and Raekwon. A lot of Wu-Tang members were not doing guest appearances, but they had Ghost and Raekwon on a couple of joints. They had An Eye for an Eye. They had Nas on the album. It was just, a dope album, and this deserves a top 10. And I don't think this will ever be something that will be away from my top 10. Number 9, a newer album, West Coast album, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. Guys, I've been following Kendrick ever since Overly Dedicated, actually since the Kendrick Lamar EP, and he's my favorite artist rapping now, and just to see what he's done now and to see where he's, where he started was just dope. But Good Kid, Mad City just let everybody know that he, is a great, not just rapper, but great artist. He touches so many topics. He's super West Coast, but he's ultra lyrical in your vein of your exhibits, your corrupts, your Razcast. Like, he's still super lyrical at the same time. He's still West Coast with it, and he blends the two, East Coast and West Coast, influences very well. I mean, you already know "Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe." That's out of here. That's crazy joint. Poetic Justice, crazy. So he had hits. Then he had Backseat. Then he had MC8 on this album. And not just the songs itself, just the skits and the impact. I mean, the West Coast hadn't had an album that was really impactful up until that point, until probably Game's first album, maybe first two albums, where Game was was the only West Coast dude on a mainstream level really like kicking down doors. Kendrick came down and immediately was like the best rapper in the game, and just that album started it all. And now Kendrick is doing world tours, and is probably the biggest not just hip hop artist in the world, period. And but Good Kid, Mad City started off, so that's number 9. Number 8, the hip hop backpacker in me, Black Star. The album's called Blackstar-Self Titled. I love Mos Def. I love Talib Kweli. I really wish they did more albums together. But what makes this album so important is that they only did one album. So I mean, and it still came out in '98, and it just has so many dope songs, so many thought provoking songs. They were on Ruckus Records. Ruckus Records is what at the time was the dopest underground label to me. They just had dope underground MCs, dope albums. They had Company Flow and everything, and Pharoah Monch. They were pumping out all these great musics and sound bombing mixtapes. But this album right here, Black Stars, Respiration, Definition, Children's Story, Brown Skin Lady, just Determination. I mean, like, Mos Def is, I think, one of the dopest MCs ever. Talib Kweli probably falls into one of the most underrated MCs ever. And I mean, they were at their peak, and just a classic album, just super hip hop head, but at the same time, they're from Brooklyn. So they were talking about stuff that wasn't like over your head. They wasn't like bashing you in the head with all this positivity, but it was really good, feel good music in your vein of some of the Tribe Called Quest, De La Salle albums. Black Star's album, the first one, is a classic, the only one, which probably gives it a couple levels for me, just because it's the only album they've ever done together. Number 7, I have Jay-Z. Jay-Z has Black Album, Jay-Z has Blueprint, but for me, Jay-Z at his best was still Reasonable Doubt. I mean, The Evils, 22 Twos, Feeling It, Brooklyn's Finest with Biggie, him and Biggie going back and forth. Cashmere Thoughts, a young Memphis Bleak on that, coming of age. I mean, Ain't No Nigga with Foxy. He had hits. He had, super, dope production. He had DJ Premier on the album. He had, Ski on the album. He had, I was gonna say Pete Rock, but no, he did not have Pete Rock on the album. He had Jazz on the album. He had Sauce Money. I mean, it was like a really Brooklyn album, mafioso in your vein as some of the, like, it was written by Nas, but he did it really well. But at the same time, he was talking a lot about his life. He wasn't like over exaggerating. When you listen to him, you really felt like he really did what he lived. And I've never heard nobody shit on Jay-Z and say that he was fake or not a gangster or not whatever. And he never portrayed himself like that. He just had dope lyrics. He was smooth, and just Reasonable Doubt is my favorite album from him, and will probably never be taken out of the top 10 ever. Number 6, All Eyez on Me. I know the movie just came out. Sometimes All Eyez on Me is actually higher on the list, but right now I have it at number 6. I was just talking to my barber the other day. He said, Me Against the World is Tupac's best album. And we went back and forth, and I say, Me Against the World, lyric-wise and substance, he might have had more on that album. But I feel the impact, not just records sold, but he came out of jail and just smashed everything. California Love, Gangsta Party, Ambitions as a Writer. He had the whole Bay on the album. He had Rappin' Forte, E40, Sibo. Like, he had the Bay on the album. He had LA dudes on the album, so he connected the whole coast. I mean, he was California. He was West Coast. And the double album, you could put that against any double album. I think it slaughters any double album, just because it's still like the stuff he was saying still relevant. You could play that now. The beats that Daz was giving him on the album. A lot of people think Dre did the album, but Daz did a lot of music on that album. He had Corrupt on the album. He had Method Man. He had Redman. I mean, the dude was great, and people been pissing me off talking about Pac is not a dope lyricist or whatever. Man, he was people acting like he was like Future or he was doing mumble rap. Like Bach really said some stuff, and then he made you feel it in your bones. Like in that album when he came out, like name another album that's like Ambitions of the Ride. He comes out and just that song just kills it. Just kills it. So yes, Tupac. All Eyes on Me certainly is in my top 10. That's at number 6. 1 second, be right back. Ready to Die. Ready to Die. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Ready to Die is just a super dope album. And it's hella hot in here right now. But Ready to Die, super dope album. Just Give Me the Loot. Warning. Just the singles. One More Chance. The What. Just every song on the album is a classic. DJ Premier, Pete Rock on the album. I mean, not too many albums have that combination on there. Suicidal Thoughts. He kills himself at the end of the album. Just dope, which leads right into Life After Death, and then unfortunately he really passes away. But I mean, Machine Gun Funk, like that was I was like 10 years old. I had that tape. I was playing it every day. My grandma was pissed that I was playing that. Just a dope album, and it's just the impact it had on my life, making me want to rhyme. Biggie's one of the greatest. His storytelling was unbelievable on that album, but he was just so raw, so rugged on the album. He was more polished and on Life After and everything, but on this album he was still like from the gutter. You could tell a lot of those records was not being made for the radio. That's why he had to give you a couple radio songs like Juicy. But he has the classic, and then he has the gutter songs too. Just a dope record, top 5 for sure. Number 4, Only Built for Cuban Links. Favorite record from any solo member of the Wu-Tang. Iron Man's one of my favorites. Supreme Clientele is one of my favorites. But Only Built was like, really street. But super, Ray and the whole Wu Tang's always lyrical. But, it's not like, there's a difference between Jizza, Liquid Swords, who could be over your head. Ray was lyrical, Ghost was lyrical, but it was still like super street, super authentic. They had knuckleheads, all the guest appearances, Ice Cream, Wu Gambinos, Spot Rushers. Well, I'm forgetting songs. The Ice Water. They had the Shark Nigga skit when Ghost was talking about Big biting from Nas. Like, just the whole album is just dope, and it's the best solo Wu effort in my opinion. Still holds up. The Purple Tape, number 4. Number 3, Low End Theory. Low End Theory, I went back and forth. Low End Theory or Midnight. Low End Theory or Midnight. And I chose Low End Theory just because it had Scenario. Scenario is my favorite posse cut. Busta Rhymes is on there killing stuff. Q-Tip was at his best. The production was super crazy. And if you compare that to the first album, Instinctive Travels, to this is like a totally different group. Like Fife was doper. Like Fife was barely on the first album. He was on this album dope. Droby wasn't on this album, but they also had, Excursions. They had Check the Rhyme, Jazz, just dope songs. Like Tribes, influence on groups like Common, Black Star, Pharoah Monch. I think, Tribe, De La Soul really was before Tribe, and then Tribe begat. But I think Tribe just made it so cool to be native tongue and just really be dope. Because some people looked at De La Soul as a little too weird, but Tribe was accepted by everybody. I go back and forth between them and Wu Tang as my favorite groups, and Tribe, killed it. I'm just a big Tribe fan. Second is, I know people was wondering when you're gonna mention this album. Illmatic is my second You see Illmatic right there. Illmatic, second album of all time. It's not my first. It's really hard to say that it's not my first. Every song is dope. I mean, from the intro, New York State of Mind, Life's a Bitch, The World Is Yours, Halftime, Memory Lane, One Love, One Time for Your Mind, Represent. It ain't hard to tell. I just named all 10 songs. Like every song was dope. Pete Rock, Premier, you notice that. Like if you have one of those guys in your albums in the 90s, I think you'd be okay. Pete Rock, Premier, Q-Tip, Large Pro. Like, I mean, you're not going wrong with the lineup. Nas's rhymes were like sharp like a knife. Just every song. My favorite songs are "The World Is Yours." I mean, and New York State of Mind. Those are probably. And then the older I get, One Love becomes more and more a favorite of mine. If you've had homies locked up, whatever, or people locked up in your family, you would understand One Love. I love that song. So number two, and the number one favorite album of all time is Enter the 36 Chambers. Love this album. Wu-Tang is on my arm. Wu-Tang's behind me. Just influenced by everything they did. Just the group itself, Protect Your Neck. I remember when I first heard Cream, I played it over and over and over and over again. The METHOD Man, Bring the Ruckus, Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, Mystery of Chess Boxing. Like just literally every song on the album is a classic. I've seen them perform this live twice. Just it's just a dope album. And it just I think when I first started getting into rhyming and rapping, they were the group that really made me want to rap. I mean, they were just super complex. At the same time, they were street. Like you couldn't play them or nothing. Like they was just, and they were all different. ODB was different from Meth. Meth was different from Ray. You Got was different from Inspector Deck. Like the production was, dope, and just just they play a major part of my life. And Wu Tang is the reason why I'm a big hip hop head today. Them along with Biggie was my first two tapes I had, and I still play Wu Tang every day. It's kind of like just a necessity. So that's my top 10, guys. Sorry for the little camera issues going back and forth. But yeah, that's my top 10. Please feel free to comment. Let me know what your top 10 is. Until next time, 100. Peace.